Hey, what's up, everybody? Just doing a little bit of a stream here. As you come in, as always, make sure you smash the like button. If you haven't yet, hit subscribe. If you aren't a subscriber to TMBS YouTube channel yet, you should do that immediately. Become a subscriber. Smash the like button as soon as you arrive. What's up? Just let me know. Everybody can hear me, right? I just want to confirm that before I get rolling here. Um, Thank you. Yes, check out Weekends with Anna Kasparian and Michael Brooks on Jacobin, and subscribe to Jacobin in general. The Jacobin channel is going to be really awesome and really important. Thank you. A million. Guys, if you're rolling in, smash the like button. Smash the like button immediately. And if you haven't yet, if somehow you're watching this, go become a subscriber to the channel and hit the bell so you get the notifications on live streams, and go into the archive. Watch the last video we just did on Ralph Gonzalez, talking about how Venezuela, even as they are under siege from the United States, is helping the Caribbean with testing kits, while the United States is stealing and diverting and pirating face masks away from countries like Barbados and Jamaica. Segments like that, as well as all the deep dives that we do, and the fun we have. You can check out, we just unlocked the last post game. And if you're thinking about becoming a patron, which you should be if you can, definitely watch that last post game episode. You'll get a sense of a lot of the fun we have and the depth we go into in the post games. So smash the like button again, as I'll say, smash the like button. Make sure you hit subscribe. And folks, if you can, definitely, if you're in a position, go to patreon.com/TMBS. I'm sure all the patrons in the chat will tell you how awesome it is and how worth it is to be a patron. We still have to hit our next goal of getting to 4,000 patrons. We've been doing a ton of extra work, putting out a lot of extra content. We're doing our new economics series on Sunday. Last week was Grace Blakely. Tomorrow is going to be Mark Blythe, 2 o'clock New York City time. And look, we're in a good position. We're doing well, and we still need to meet our goals. And if you're in a position to do it, or if you need a deal and want to come on board, just let us know. But if you're in a position to do it, go right now to patreon.com/TMBS and do it up. This type of media is part of the game. And smash the like button, hit subscribe. Definitely hit us with super chats during these things. That is really important for the YouTube channel. But what I'm going to do is I have a little spiel that I'm going to do here. And if you want to hit with the super chat, that's awesome and deeply appreciated. If you hit now while I'll sort of do my talk, that will just be kind of a donation, which is awesome and appreciated. And then later, after I kind of run through this stuff a little bit, I'll take some questions from the super chat. So guys, I want to talk first about this dynamic with regards to really understanding this new Cold War dynamic that's emerging between the United States and China. And I think it's extremely important. There's a number of complexities here, and I'm going to talk about the wider realities of Asia. This new book I've read, I'm in the process of reading by Parag Khanna. I don't have it in front of me, but it's called The Next Century is Asian. There's a lot of subtleties here, but I think it's really, really, really important to understand that Steve Bannon and other extreme forces around the Trump world, as well as a number of very highly leveraged think tanks who receive money from the military-industrial complex, arms contractors, and people that you'd expect, as well as a very concentrated campaign on Tucker Carlson and other media outlets, is definitely to get us into a sort of Cold War type mindset with China. And the whole conversation about China and the whole sort of U.S. bilateral relationship with China has changed significantly, going back to actually before Trump. It goes back to Obama's pivot to Asia. I talked about this earlier on the Jacobin Weekend show with Anna. And this is going to be a major part of the general election campaign. The Biden campaign is actually hitting back very effectively against Trump on sort of closeness to China. But I want to just say that it's extremely important right now to recognize, of course, that we can't build a kind of counter romantic knowledge, narrative about China. We need to be real, about the shortcomings, mistakes, and problems of the Chinese government. But we also need to very strongly oppose and be very clear about the fact that neoconservative and other reactionary forces, as well as mainline democratic forces, are in formation to generate a Cold War like dynamic with China. And this goes in a couple of different waves. Thank you, a million, Brit. This goes in a couple of different waves. If you go back to the beginning of the opening of the relationship between China and the United States, the strategic calculation by Mao and Richard Nixon really had to do with a shared interest between both actors trying to basically isolate the Soviet Union. So there was a convergence of interest in opening China from both sides of the policy making process to isolate the Soviet Union. Obviously, the Soviets and the Chinese as sort of inter-communist world rivals, and then the United States and the Soviet Union as global rivals as well. Then we have the period which, with a lot of different major events, including Tiananmen Square and change in various administrations, but Deng Xiaoping, and then Jiang Zemin, and even Hu Jintao to some extent, you could look at as the sort of building years of China. That China is going to get back into the center of the economy. It's going to do a really important work in terms of developing its economic base, growing its economy. And obviously, the US corporate sector loved this because there was an enormous amount of cheap labor and resources to exploit. And, the most important thing, obviously, that we see a major event is the late 90s is the signing of permanent normalized trade relations with China, which was opposed very, very strongly by labor unions and environmentalists in the United States. Then, of course, there was, thank you so much. I'm so honored and appreciate the super chats, and they really, really help and are really important. So then you have and also a very important and a discourse about human rights abuses in China, like the occupation of Tibet and things like that. During this whole time, the Chinese are talking about having a peaceful rise, and there appears to be a kind of synchronized interest, at least between the governing elites and the corporate elites in both countries, right? And particularly the United States, and then kind of members of the Communist Party. I'm running over a lot of history here, but at some point, and this is where it's really important to understand the Chinese perspective, and Richard Wolff and I have talked about this a lot, and I certainly would read somebody like Pepe Escobar in the Asia Times, which is that basically China decided to, and did from the beginning, was basically that its development strategy was not perpetually to just essentially provide cheap labor for the United States and maybe make some carpets and bootleg for some DVDs. It was going to invest in its own domestic infrastructure. It was going to have its own its own strategy for growth, its own investments in its technology industry. And a lot of what the United States kind of complains about China now, and where you can hear people like Steve Bannon and Thomas Friedman discoursing the same rhetoric, is essentially a complaint that China wants to play a role that is proper to itself in the global playing field. It's the second largest economy in the world. It has incredibly important growth industries. It has an enormous amount of diplomatic influence, infrastructure influence. The Belt and Road Initiative is an enormous project connecting Africa through Asia to Europe, and it is doing enormous advances in 5G. So again, this doesn't mean that we don't have a critique of China where it's warranted, although again, I really will keep emphasizing the reality is get on stat finance, please. Get on state finance, please. The gem could make strides in CFR. Google it, my guy. Peace and stay safe. Well, I will check that out. It basically, I will always remind people the United States is still obviously the prime hegemonic military force in the world today, and it's very important to not draw a false equivalency. I mean, the United, even as China starts to be a bit more diplomatically assertive and run its own kind of global propaganda campaigns like the United States, it still is not involved in an example. Thank you so much, everybody. Check out What Do You Mean in funding proxy wars or actively engaging in coup attempts like the United States does, across the globe. So there really are enormous differences in footprints, and the United States, between its arsenal, military spending, global presence, is absolutely the most aggressive. So we cannot be naive or draw a false equivalency. And then at the same time, I think we need to be real about the successes as well as real failures of the Chinese model. Now, the other two things I just want to bring into this real quick, and then I'll get to questions, are uh, that, as Kana reminds us, and the thing I appreciate about him, is that Asia is not a monolith. People usually just think they're talking about China. Occasionally they throw in India, but obviously we're talking about an enormous mass of human beings and geography from parts of the Middle East to Australia. And even when we talk about success in dealing with Corona, we really have to look at the enormous successes of South Korea, of Taiwan, of Hong Kong, and of Vietnam. And of course, there's real serious, and Japan as well. There's significant strategic rivalries um, between inside Asia itself, obviously. And one of the ways that it's manifesting, and I think you're going to see parallels in the United States, and I want people to be really ready on this and much more strategic about it from a left perspective when we talk about Asia. One is that there is actually concerns inside Asia itself about more sort of resiliency in production, building more kind of national and state capacity. Japan is working on this, as well as more tight regional integration and networks. That's developing significantly in Asia. And in the United States, when you look at the fear mongering and the demonization and conspiracy theories about China, which we have to reject because of the agenda it's attached to and the enormous danger that it could facilitate in international affairs. On the flip side, we cannot cede the really important insight that the trade regime of, let's just say, the from Reagan through Bush, but accelerating the types of trade agreements pushed through by Bill Clinton, George W. Bush, and to some extent Barack Obama, though he did not get TPP, that these things have absolutely not only gutted the United States in terms of its workforce, it's been damaging among many other trends to its workforce, but really important resiliencies in supply chains. And that's why it's very concerning that, Josh Hawley, a very smart, very, very capable far right senator, he's all over this in terms of protecting. Sorry, I don't know. Am I back? I think I'm having a connectivity issue, but I hope I'm back. That the left cannot cede that. The left needs to synchronize. Thank you, Jamal. I appreciate it. The left needs to synchronize um, combating the xenophobia, combating the sort of attempts at a Cold War setting, while actually saying absolutely, labor, local economies, investment in state governments have been absolutely undermined by this policy, these trade agreements, and the hollowing out of the industrial base. And so we need to synchronize both of those things. We need to have an alternative description of a relationship with China. As people who are interested in workers globally, there needs to be at least a conversation and an analytic framework that connects workers in the United States and China, and of course, everywhere across the globe. And then on a policy level, we need to emphasize the profound importance of global cooperation on ecological damage, the climate crisis, but also technological innovation. And also, I would suggest looking for and trying to find alternatives for preserving technological openness that rejects Silicon Valley platform capitalism, which is so pernicious, but also doesn't buy into, Chinese models of controlling the internet either. But it is very important to fight and reject the Cold War model completely and the demonization of China completely. We need intelligence, we need complexity, we need real analysis. And then at the same time, we cannot cede a resurgence of interest in resiliency and state capacity for vital strategic industries. This is going to be growing in Asia. This is, of course, completely part and parcel of a broader argument about good basic governance. It's profoundly important and connected, obviously, with, I mean, look, you cannot separate South Korea's incredible achievement with Corona from the fact that they have an excellent, excellent healthcare system. So I just wanted to put that out there, and then I will take some questions. I hope that makes sense. I use these streams to kind of bounce through things, go over some of the stuff that I'm reading and thinking about. There's definitely going to be a lot more China and Asia coverage on the show. I feel like Japan is on the brink of a major economic crisis because of their incredibly slow response to COVID-19. People over there even consider the U.S. response as a positive counterexample. That's fascinating. I have not heard those signals yet, but I will look into that more. I'm really, really interested in finding out about more of the responses actually really across the continent. If you're just arriving, smash the like button. Smash the like button right now if you're just arriving. And if you haven't yet, hit subscribe, become a subscriber to the Michael Brooks Show YouTube channel. Would you want to become a presidential advisor? Sure. I would absolutely advise. Impression: Liz Franzik suspicious of Nancy, suspicious of Pelosi. I don't have a Liz Franzik impression yet. What is like, God, and people are looking for leadership from Pelosi. That's crazy. I'm gonna need to work on that one. Shouts to Liz Franzik. Good day, Michael. Please cheer me up by doing an impression of Chris Matthews getting a phone call during a live stream with Dave Rubin. Cheers, mate. Oh, I'm sorry, Dave. I have a call. I think it's somebody. I think he's got a connection for some great Tulsi Gabbard surfing shots. Wait, are you kidding me? It's a Bobby Kennedy autograph? It's an autograph of Bobby Kennedy. I remember Tip O'Neill and I used to talk about Bobby Kennedy, but hold on just 1 second. Yeah, relax, Dave. It's a picture of the first time Tip O'Neill threw up. Tip O'Neill was riding the tee and he threw up. This is incredible. It's like a painting. Smash the like button, hit subscribe. If you are in a position to do it, go to patreon.com, patreon.com/TMBS, become a patron. You will get an enormous amount of extra content. And of course, also support all of the extra content we're doing here. We're doing those Thursday streams. If you haven't watched it yet, watch the first part of the conversation with Adolph Reed Jr. Watch the conversation with Medina Torre. For patrons, tomorrow there's going to be an in-depth conversation with Adolph Reed on the South Carolina Labor Party. We also just had a lot of fun. That guy's a legend. And then tomorrow, the economics second part with Mark Blythe. And then Tuesday, Dr. Cornel West is on TMBS. I cannot describe to you how unbelievably excited I am about that. That is fucking awesome. I'd also recommend, of course, watch the conversations with Zizek. I mean, you as a patron and as someone who's supporting, you're just supporting an enormous amount of work we're putting out. And all the work is really good and really important. I'm really proud of it. If you haven't yet, watch the interviews that we did with President Lula. Speaking of heavy hitters, and the Zizek interview was dope. If you haven't yet, smash the like button. Joshua's segments are really grounded. Keep strong, my man. Already a member. West on TMBS. What? Yes. Well, first of all, thank you so much. And secondly, Joshua Kahn Russell, my dear brother, the executive director of Wildfire Project. I love the segments we're doing. I love getting in to the psychological, the spiritual dimensions. I would also recommend that everybody look up someone I've had the privilege of teaching with. You can look up Joseph Goldstein. He has got some great guided meditations, guided Vipassana meditations, which are available on this site. Ben Riley, Vosh is a debater. May Odin show mercy for the poor soul who dares challenge him. Love democracy matters. Okay, cool. Um, so yeah, because people have been asking me because I do keep kind of alluding to some of this more like psychological and spiritual stuff, and the conversations are happening. I mean, it's in the rhythm of the show. Certainly with Joshua Kahn Russell and other people that are going to come on. Of course, Dr. West, who's one of my primary influences and heroes. But as far as like the actual techniques, I mean, I might have Joseph Goldstein on at some point. I mean, I have another really important teacher of mine, Susan Green, on at some point. But I want you, as far as just the kind of basic techniques, check out a guided meditation by Joseph Goldstein is going to be better than me, frankly. Thoughts on Jimmy Dore's critique of Bernie and AOC, calling them spineless for their roles in the slush fund. Hate to say it, but I'm inclined to agree. I mean, yeah, those are absolutely valid areas of criticism, and I've definitely criticized Bernie. I think the specific criticism with Bernie is that he could have mobilized millions of people on his email list uh, to call into Congress and try to demand that monstrosity. On the other hand, obviously it passes with basically with unanimous vote in the Senate. I don't remember the exact vote total in the House, and the threat that always is going to hang over progressives' heads is that they're the only ones with immediate concern for human needs. But at the same time, I think those are completely fair criticisms in those cases. I'd also connect it to getting in not only for the really important stuff that they're putting forward in terms of getting everybody 2,000 a month and suspending rent and things like that, but also getting in on those supply chains and resiliency issues so it is not ceded to the right. Canada want to keep our borders closed. America's ship is sinking. Yeah, this is obviously not a good time for the United States. There's no doubt about that. If you're just arriving or if you haven't yet, smash the like button. And if you haven't yet, is there anybody watching this who hasn't subscribed to the Michael Brooks Show YouTube channel yet? Thank you, D. Much appreciated, brother. Is there anybody who's done that, who hasn't actually subbed to the YouTube channel yet? As I would say in the outro to our videos, don't be foolish. Well, first thing to do is you smash the like button, then you go hit subscribe. Thank you. Much appreciated. Much appreciated. Thoughts on international Marxist tendency? If none, Mikey is Mikey an acceptable nomenclature? Sure. If you hit with a lot of Patreon donations. The Marxist International Tendency, is that a group? I'm not gonna lie to you, I don't know what that is. I mean, I know about a notion of internationalist Marxism, obviously, but I don't know if I apologize. I don't if that's a specific group. I don't know. Canada, go to Canada. Don't go there. Is Bill Maher just a stepbrother of the dark web squad at this point? Last night's show had Fareed Zakaria, Dan the Pirate Crenshaw, and Andrew Sullivan as the intellectuals during this crisis. Yeah, I mean, look, I think Bill Maher can still be funny at times. I think that he's another person where he's actually a very good person to watch to understand a particular kind of boomer democratic mindset. And he's also somebody who he can't be cool anymore in the same way he used to be able to kind of posture or try to show in the Bush era, because there are people who will do some actual real left political analysis. It's amazing. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I read Fareed Zakaria and Andrew Sullivan back in the day. It seems kind of hysterical that those would be like two major sources of interest. At some point, as far as Crenshaw goes, I have to throw on the eye patch and go for the impression. If you haven't yet, smash the like button. I want to get to 300 likes. There's 522 people watching this, and there should be 523 likes. And also, of course, if you haven't yet, hit subscribe and the bell so you get the notifications on the channel. We do a fair amount of live streams. I mean, this way you can catch the show, the main Tuesday show, all the additional content we're doing, as well as the live streams I do. And actually, Griscom rolls through and does some of these live streams as well. Uh, and I'm told that he's doing a pretty good job. Maybe not according to our friend and mentor Richard Wolff, but I think he might be doing a decent job. I'm about to read Richard Wolff's Understanding Marxism, Better Understand Marx. Anything I ought to know before I try to understand Marxism? No, honestly, that's just a great, great way to start. I love Richard Wolff's reading. Um, I'd listened back in the archive to Bill Fletcher Jr. and I's conversation on African Marxism. Thank you so much. Um, I think maybe the Revolutions podcast. I haven't listened to all of it, to be honest, but the ones on the 1850s, the wave of revolutions in Europe. I mean, those are some good context. But honestly, Richard Wolff is just so great, and he's such a tremendous teacher. I just think you're going to have a really good time. And then from there, I mean, I would also definitely check out David Harvey's podcast on Capital. I would also, there's a lot of other things to tune into. But and obviously, I mean, the people that I'm extremely interested in, as an example, Amilcar Cabral, um, but I would definitely, I think starting with Richard Wolff is a fantastic way to get into the mix. And I appreciate you guys, moving with me, because I really care about this stuff. I'm incredibly proud of what we're doing, and I think we're growing in what we're doing. Thoughts on the Alfalfa Club, illicit history. I don't know what the Alfalfa Club is. What is the Alfalfa Club? Here, have some of my blood money. I wish I could make calls into the Majority Report. Would love to discuss some AG and climate issues, ag and climate issues. Yes, I definitely want to talk more about that for sure. Wait, it's from the Little Rascals? Yes, I could. I always just think of Eddie Murphy doing buckwheat. Hey, Michael, how's it going? I'm concerned that the progressives are getting esoteric, moving away from the reality of working folk. Well, I mean, that's been a huge problem for a long time of every sector of liberal left movements. I think the dialectic, though, and the paradox that we play with on the show is that sometimes conversations, like, did you think the conversation we did last Tuesday with Paul O'Connell was esoteric? Right? Like, I don't think so at all. But there is some real theory work there, and there is some real kind of conceptual bullshit to clean up that can help make the left not just some delusional liberal fantasy project, but a real workers oriented project. So I think there's a paradox there. But in general, that's an extremely valid and important concern. And that's why I've been, really fighting for and looking at how can we create a left that is open, that is empathetic, that is power oriented, and not quote unquote, I mean, normie and everything else, right? Can it be a movement that is as open and as heterodox as the working class itself? I will say Adolf Reed and I got into this really deep on the episode that's going up for patrons tomorrow, and I just think we did a really good and exciting job on that. And then as far as the kind of relative stuff, I mean, I've said it. It's not going to be the main focus of this show and what we're doing here. Ultimately, to the extent it's possible, building a mass labor movement is obviously the singularly most important thing a left can do. There needs to be an international relations component to it. There needs to be a critique of imperialism. There needs to be a critique of the military industrial complex, because that's synchronized with the capacity to do these other efforts. Thank you a million, John. Appreciate it and honored. But and again, and this is also what I was saying, that I appreciate people, rolling with our honesty. Like, yeah, I'm not going to be advocating sort of, meaningless protest voting in the election. This is where we are. We need to be real in all elements of the analysis, and take the decision in the election to mitigate harm, and then think long term and strategically. What is up with the captions? I'm deaf, and even with my hearing aids, I still struggle to keep up. Will deaf would like to have access. I enjoy TMBS. Thanks. So, I have to look into that, because we don't control that. That's a YouTube thing. So I'm willing to look around and poke around and see if there's any way. I don't know if there's different extensions or something. that we could plug in ourselves, I really don't know. Um, but I know when you know, watch a YouTube video, that's YouTube, you know, sort of doing it, not us. But I'm really sorry that it's difficult and it sucks. I don't know why it is difficult. And I will definitely check in with that. I'm really, really sorry to hear that, actually. Um, Folks, if you're just joining or if you haven't done it yet, it's time to smash the like button. Time to smash the like button. 574 people watching, 349 likes. That's good, but we need more likes. Frankly, I think we need a lot more likes. I think we're going to need a lot more energy on the like bar. Going to need a lot more energy on the like bar. And if you haven't yet, you should hit subscribe and the bell so you get the notifications. And that's also, by the way, a tremendous thing you can do. And it's a really great thing and a tremendous thing. I mean, it's a thing that we really appreciate. And because it's amazing and because by far TMBS is the best show in the game, everyone knows it, no one questions it, and we do a great job. Um, Thank you guys. Five more to 400 likes. Five more to 400 likes. Let's do it. And while you're here, definitely, if you haven't yet, make sure you hit subscribe to the channel and make sure you get the bell notification going so you can get the notifications for all this live stream. Sweet. Are there more questions? Are there more super chats? I can take a few more if you've got a few more on the super chat. We've passed 400. That is very awesome. Well done, everybody. Well done, everybody. Any more questions on the super chat? And I hope that the China supply chain spiel made sense. If Biden wins, how do we get some of our soft power back from China? Uh, I don't think it's a question of getting soft power back from China. I think it's a question of acting in such a way that actually, you know, doesn't undermine our position entirely, right? I mean, look, you know, nothing is going to pushing for sanctions on Iran during the corona crisis is more devastating than anything else. Stealing ventilators from the Caribbean, there's some very basic moves. Now, I think, you know, in the big picture, soft power is somewhat overrated because people are mostly responding to hard power, obviously. And I think, you know, there's a lot of skepticism in the globe, you know, between, you know, to both the United States and China. I think ultimately people are not the insane hawk militarists in the United States are trying to push a new Cold War bipolar dynamic. And there is a G2 world in some senses. But I don't think most people want a new superpower rivalry. I think they want more decentralized power to the extent that's possible. Yo, Michael, love you and love everything you do. Any thoughts on our new right wing documentary, Out of the Shadows? I have not heard of it. I'm really sorry. Yeah, I'll look it up. What do you think the rubber meets the road of progressives in terms of growing power? Big structural Bailey, no question, just thanks. Well, I really appreciate it. Guys, labor unions are the most important thing, and union movements are by far the most important thing. I don't know how we do it. I know if you haven't yet, please watch the interview I did with Chris Smalls. Please support the Amazon strikes. Please support the Teamsters striking in Philadelphia. I know that nothing ultimately is more important than that. Obviously, I think in a presence and electoral power is absolutely essential and important, but it is not the terrain we have power in yet. You know, even though there's been some small progress, but it's nothing like real power or a win. What does a mass labor movement look like? The end goal, dethrone capitalists and create world unity behind automated basic needs of survival? I don't know. And I think honestly, part of thinking in those mass terms is not coming in with a preset big agenda like that. Obviously, I think there needs to be global synchronization, global labor unity for you know, very practical and necessary reasons. But I think we have to start, you know, in fact, on these really simple grounds that we haven't achieved yet. You know, hazard pay, job guarantee, housing, Medicare for all, and serious structural green policies that empower labor. Radicalizing banker bro, raise, quell, raise mind wage fear. I don't understand that, James. I'm sorry. Seen Oliver Stone's Untold History of the U.S. I've seen a couple episodes of it. I thought it was good. I think that that's actually a very, I mean, look, I would, you got to read and watch plenty of other things, but I think from what I saw, there's a hell of a lot of truth to it. I think he's someone who has a very strong understanding of, compelled by agricultural and environmental descriptions of it. And in fact, as long as we continue to decimate the global environment, that type of thing is going to, continue internationally. No, I just don't. Look, I really like Kyle. I have a lot of respect for him. I don't buy it. I think that, there's a real serious, sorry guys, I think there's something going on with the internet. I think there's something going on with the internet, so I'll probably end the stream relatively soon. It's just a question of how much relentlessness, do you want in a given administration? And I wish that we were in a completely different point, but we're not yet. Can you do Bernie or bust Sam Cedar? I'm not voting for no, because I'm not going to reward them. I'm not going to reward them. I'm not doing it. And because it's Bernie or bust. Do you see? All right, guys. I think YouTube is throttling. I hope that information came out. Appreciate all of you guys. I want everybody to stay safe, stay healthy, keep thinking beyond. And in addition to these electoral terms, there's a whole wide world out there, including very, very importantly, the global, dimension. These kind of macro trends in terms of shifting power balances, ecological change, and technological advancement are going to really define the next several decades, and we need a serious strategic and humane position on them. Honored by all of you guys, honored by the support. If you haven't yet, take the last few seconds here, smash the like button, get us up to 500 likes. Definitely, if you haven't yet, hit subscribe to the YouTube channel, hit the bell so you get the notifications, and go to patreon.com/TMBS and become a patron if you haven't yet. We got to keep powering ahead, get to those 4,000 marks so we can keep doing this for real global coverage and analysis and bringing on and expanding on so many different points with everybody from Adolph Reed to Mark Blythe to Grace Blakely to President Lula to Cornel West. Guys, it's really, really awesome what you've supported us in doing. We're super honored by it, and we keep going. Patreon is worth it. Thank you, Kowalski. Thank you, James. I know, yeah, and anytime we do one of these and you're a patron, definitely let the people know how absolutely worth it is, because you get way more from the Patreon if you are a patron, even though we've actually just sort of doubled overall output anyways. Anyways, guys, much love, much respect. Appreciate all of you.